Hello and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be going through 5 guitar trends that I think have aged horribly. Now these are completely my opinion, and so you might disagree with me on these, but you also might agree with me. But be sure to give me some of your takes on guitar trends that have aged horribly down in the comments. But let's get into it. So we're going to start this one off with a feature from the sort of late 2000s, early 2010s that was predominantly pushed by Gibson, that being the robot tuners. The idea that you could just press a button and your guitar would be in tune was kind of an interesting one. But in reality, it was quite a flawed concept because, well, for one, guitarists have never really had much of an issue tuning their guitars themselves. It's been done for as long as the guitar has existed. And it was also quite a complex system which didn't always tune accurately, and also meant that you had a bunch of additional weight on the headstock as you had this big chunky pack thing that connected all of the individual tuners. Now this was fairly swiftly discontinued by Gibson, and I think rightfully so. And it's something that we haven't really seen for the most part, other than from a few very, very niche sort of brands here and there since. Now I know I'm going to get some disagreement on this next point, but my second pick for this list is pointy and neon guitars, especially from the sort of 80s, the hair metal era, where you had things in very bright greens, pinks, yellows, and crazy pointy shapes. And yes, I'm particularly looking at BC Rich on this one. Now this is coming from me, who personally is just more of a fan of traditional and classic designs, or more modern takes on those designs. But for me, really spiky pointy guitars are just a bit stupid and a pain in the arse to play. And I can't say I've ever seen anything in a bright neon colour that I thought, you know what, that looks classy and cool and doesn't look cheap and just a bit naff. Maybe that's because I also associate it with that sort of hair metal Chad kind of vibe, which again, not particularly classy or nice, is it? Now I know I'm going to get some abuse for that one, and I know that there will be a bunch of you in the comments that do like the pointy shape stuff especially. And I do make a few exceptions to that rule, but generally I'm not a big fan of the pointy shapes, especially the 80s style ones, and especially when they're in stupid silly neon colours. So it's a bit of a double whammy, this second one, but yeah. Now my third one is kind of going back to the first point, but in a different way, and that is just overcomplicated electronics in guitars. A number of different brands over the years have tried to incorporate, you know, MIDI pickups and effects in the guitars and chaos pads and all sorts of crazy stuff. And for me, it's just unnecessary rubbish that's in there that isn't necessary. Especially when it requires some sort of software or something to go with it. You've suddenly introduced an opportunity for obsolescence in a guitar, which to me is just insane. There are loads of really cool things you can do with fairly basic circuitry in guitars, and for me, I'd rather just have all of the other processing and all that rubbish separate, because like I said, then it means your guitar is timeless and will always work. And I think it just looks neater and cleaner, and it's not a bunch of extra weight and complexity and just, you know, a whole load of things that just aren't necessary being in the guitar itself. Because ultimately that's what your pedal board and amps and interfaces and stuff are for, really. In my experience as well, this never used to really see its way into like the really high-end stuff, so it tended to be on more mid-range and budget-friendly models, which again added another layer of issue because the additional stuff in there was always cheap itself, but also taking away value that could have been spent on making the guitar itself of a higher quality. My fourth choice for this list is one that does actually pain me a little bit, but if we sit down with ourselves and really give ourselves a stern talking to, we know it's not great. And that is the 90s very, very mid-scooped high gain tones. I'm thinking especially nu metal here, and it was super common with things like 5150s, 6505s, as well as Messer Marks and dual and triple rectifiers. Now personally, I do love this period of music, especially nu metal. I'm a big fan of it, but having played a little bit with some of these amps and just heard more tones and stuff done with these amps since, with more modern production, throwing a bit of those mids back in there does really improve a tone and just makes it sound better. So as nostalgic and, you know, fun those old tones are, next time you're going for that sort of tone, throw a bit more mid in there and just see what it does, because I promise it does improve it massively. And especially on something like a 5150 or a 6505, or even the Messer stuff, which is already, just with the EQ flat, quite a mid-scooped sound, or lacking a bit in the mids. You don't need to be then dialing it out even more with the onboard EQ. But yeah, a little bit of advice there. Try it out with a bit more mids next time. I think you'll find that it just gives you a nice fuller sound, and yeah, as great as those 90s tones are, they could have been better, come on. And my fifth and final point for this is by far my worst offender from this list, and that is scalloped fretboards. Boy, do I hate scalloped fretboards. Now, this was a thing especially in the sort of 80s and 90s, and it was especially common with sort of shredding people. The one I most heavily associate this with is Yngwie Malmsteen. For those of you who aren't familiar, what a scalloped fretboard is basically a dip into the fretboard between the frets. So if you think these are your frets, there would then be sort of a U shape dug into the fretboard between those two frets. Now, like I said, very popular in the 80s and 90s and with the shreddy stuff. But for me personally, I've played a few guitars like this and I hate them with a burning passion. Other than the fact I think it looks a bit stupid, I can never get these things to stay in tune or play the notes right. It just always sounds, when I play something with scalloped fretboards, like the intonation is off. Now granted, I am quite a heavy-handed player, both with my fretting and picking hand, and I think that has something to do with coming from bass especially. But I can just never get these things to stay in tune and sound like they're properly intonated. That, combined with the fact that it is an irreversible mod and the only way to get rid of it is to entirely replace the neck or an entire fretboard, for me it just completely writes off a guitar and makes it unplayable and just completely ruins that guitar for me. So there you go. There's my take on 5 bad guitar trends that have aged horribly. Like I said at the beginning, be sure to let me know your takes down in the comments below, and maybe we can do another one of these videos where I go through some of your guys' takes. But that's going to just about do us for today. So as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.